And we thank you for taking the time to be here today to really celebrate the results of our trade mission to Ontario, Canada. We were in Toronto from last Monday, the 19th, through yesterday. I had some excellent meetings and just very excited about the improvements that are available to us, the opportunities in direct exports of our products and services to Canada, and potentially some interest by businesses in Canada in expanding their operations here into Tampa Bay. So a lot of good things happening. You'll hear more about that during the course of this conference. We do, of course, want to thank our staff that helped put this whole thing together. Lori Belovich in the back of the room and Brent Barkway. Our staff, both in the back. These are the two that really did all the heavy lifting and organized the entire event. And behind them, of course, Michelle Bauer, Stacy Swank, and Stacey DeMars were our support team that did a lot of the communications and putting together the marketing. Libby Bowling went along with us to film and document the entire event. Also want to thank the U.S. Consulate General's office in Toronto, and we also have the Consul General of the Canadian Consulate in Miami with us here this morning. She wasn't able to join us on the trip, but Louise Legos is here with us, and we really appreciate that opportunity and for her to hear the results of the trip. Also, the U.S. Department of Commerce International Trade Administration helped negotiate the meetings on the American side. Great partnership, as you can see. The whole point of this trip is to build partnerships and relationships, and it's critical, and you'll see there are many, many players involved in the process. Want to also thank the sponsors. We couldn't do this without the financial support and honestly just the presence of these companies. TD Bank was a tremendous partner, obviously, for Toronto Dominion Bank. It was well recognized. We had our lanyards, and everywhere we went, they said, oh, they kind of gave the attitude of, you're one of us. And we appreciate that support from TD Bank. The other sponsors involved are the Tampa International Airport, obviously, and then Visit Tampa Bay, our CVB on the Hillsborough side, as well as Visit St. Pete Clearwater, St. Pete Clearwater side. Film Tampa Bay was involved. We did a lot with digital media and film. Shoemaker, Loop, and Kendrick, a lot of legal services are important to this entire process. Canada Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, the Nationwide Appraisal Services, and In-House were the other local market participants and sponsors to the event, and we're grateful for that. As we now start, I want to start the presentations and introduce actually, there were 4 elected officials that went along with us. Charlie Justice from Pinellas County, and Ken Hagan and Commissioner Higginbotham from Hillsborough County were there. Today, Bob Buckhorn, the mayor of Tampa, and Rich Kreisman, the mayor of St. Petersburg, are with us to kind of give you their impressions of the trip and take any questions you may have. So I want to bring them up to the table, but I also want to just say that the Export Alliance, again, is so grateful for their participation in this mission. The presence of high-level elected officials really helps set a tone for the businesses in that local market, in this case Toronto, the greater Toronto area. It helps to get the turnout we need at events. It adds to the prestige level of the event, and we're very grateful for their involvement. We're also grateful that we're able to have that smooth transition, got to know JP during this trip, and the Tampa Bay Export Alliance is solid, and we're looking forward to our next ventures going forward. So with that, I'm going to bring the mayors forward and see if there's any questions for that.
Before we start, let me introduce also City Council Member Yoli Kapin, who was along the trip with us, and Yoli's got a passion for development of our cultural scene here, as well as broadening that to the international stage. So thank you, Council Member Kapin. Yeah. Mayor Kreisman, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Thank you all for being here today. This is the second trade mission I've been fortunate enough to go on with my good friend Bob Buckhorn, and I think that first off, one of the things that you notice right off the bat in seeing the mayor of Tampa and the mayor of St. Petersburg together on these trade missions is that we recognize the importance of working together and how much stronger we are when we're working together as a region. and touting the Tampa Bay region to the rest of the world. We have incredible strengths in this region, and we were able to see those happen here in the trip in Toronto. Excuse me. One of the strengths of their marketing in Toronto is life sciences, and it's also one of the strengths economically of both Tampa and St. Petersburg. And so we see incredible opportunities for exchanges, exporting of our technology and our research that happens in both St. Pete and Tampa to Toronto. And as Mike mentioned, those businesses who are in Toronto and in Canada that want to relocate and open offices here in the Tampa, St. Pete, and Tampa Bay area. We think those opportunities are great. The other thing that's very obvious is the familiarity with the folks that we came in contact with. Whether they're snowbirds or they've simply vacationed in the Tampa Bay area, there is a familiarity with our area already. And that makes it that much easier to talk about exchanging trade with that region. And so I found this trip, as I did last year's to Santiago, really beneficial for both of our communities and for the whole Tampa Bay region.
You know, I think what Mayor Kreisman started out his comments saying is one of the key points here. The days of Hillsborough and Pinellas fighting about, you know, our respective areas and touting ourselves at the expense of others are done. I mean, you will never hear that from Mayor Kreisman or I, and I think he's absolutely right. We compete as a region with other regions around the globe. We're stronger together as a region. We benefit when each other succeeds, and as long as he and I are in office, those bridges will always be conduits to cooperation and not barriers. And so for us to have the opportunity to take this show on the road, we like to think that we were single-handedly responsible for Pierre Trudeau's election. Because we arrived on Election Day, we both happened to be Democrats. The Democrats, or the Canadian equivalent, won, and I only voted like 3 or 4 times, so it was good. And you know, we brought good luck to the Blue Jays too.
did.
Blue Jays won 2 games while we were there, and so the city of Toronto was very excited to see us. I've never seen them happier, and I like to attribute that to the great group that we took up there with us. So, you know, Toronto and Canada specifically are huge trading partners for us, both on the tourism side as well as on the commerce side. They are our largest tourist demographic group. They have a big influence here. They invest in real estate here. They have companies here. They are regular partners with us as we take Tampa Bay's flag and plant it around the globe. And so to strengthen that relationship is important moving forward. And I think what you have seen over the last 4 years that I've been in office, typical Fox News. Fox, they never leave the Democrats alone. I mean, you're all messing with us all the time. I mean, moving forward, what you've seen over the last 4 years and since Mayor Kreisman has been there is an understanding that we can't just rely on trade with Alabama, that we've got to take this story to the globe. We've got to plant our flag around the globe. We've got to expand our horizons. We can't just be satisfied trading with our domestic partners, but we've got a great story to tell. We tell it in multiple languages, although French is a little shaky for me. I'm trying to figure out how to say "it's our time" in French.
Or swagger.
Yeah, or swagger. Swagger doesn't quite translate in French, but we're working on it. But it was an exciting trip, and I think most importantly, I mean, the relationships that we established with the elected officials and the governmental officials are important. But what you're going to hear from some of our business leaders and companies that traveled with us is real deals, real opportunities, which translate to real revenue and additional jobs for members of the Tampa Bay community as well as for Florida. That's why we do this. You know, the relationships are great between government to government and from local jurisdiction to local jurisdiction, but ultimately this is all about the money. This is all about building those relationships so our citizens can grow opportunities, our Tampa-based businesses can expand their portfolio, and vice versa for the Canadians or the city of Toronto as well. So we are going to continue to do this moving forward. We have our sights on a number of other countries around the globe, and we're going to go continue to tell that story wherever we can, and hopefully cement Tampa's role as an emerging American city that's eager to play on the international stage. So we,
Any questions for the mayor?
all right.
All right, thank you all.
With that, we're going to have JP present some information about the kinds of things we did on the trip, a little bit about the agenda, so you have some details of what was going on while the companies were meeting with potential sales partners. We had a whole separate track for the delegates and the elected officials, and that JP Dubuque with Tampa Hillsborough.
Thank you. To continue on with the theme that we've heard already so far, the Tampa Bay Export Alliance is all about building on a spirit of collaboration between Pinellas County and Hillsborough County. And this mission had a lot of moving parts, a lot of different tracks, as Mike was saying. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about who went on the mission with us and who helped make it successful. As we mentioned earlier, we had several elected officials that went with us that really allows us the opportunity to speak on a country-to-country basis at a high level. We had 9 Tampa Bay companies that were working to expand their exports. We had our good friend from the Tampa Bay Lightning and Strategic Property Partners, Mr. Jeff Vinnick, join us. We had our partners at Tampa International Airport, Visit St. Pete Clearwater, Visit Tampa Bay, and Film Tampa Bay, who all worked on increasing the ties in tourism and film and digital media. We also had a large delegation of top business leaders from Tampa Bay. In total, we had about 70 people up there, and I have been told that it is the largest delegation that the U.S. Commercial Office in Toronto has hosted. And a big thanks to all the staff people who worked on this to keep all these moving parts going. Some of our mission highlights, again, as Mike mentioned, we had 9 Gold Key companies that were having one-on-one meetings with Canadian companies who were interested in purchasing their service or product and allowing us to increase our exports from Tampa Bay. And we'll hear a little bit more from a couple of those companies very soon. We also had meetings with the Ontario Minister of International Trade and the Mayor of Brampton, Mayor Jeffrey. And just a little tidbit on that, she mentioned the term swagger. And Mayor Buckhorn gave her permission to use that word in the future. We also had a American Chamber of Commerce luncheon, AmCham, at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, which was a really interesting place, with a keynote address by Jeff Vinnick, talking about the exciting things going on in downtown Tampa, and he also made reference to a lot of the other things that are going on around Tampa Bay. We were also very honored to have Larry Tannenbaum, who is the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Raptors and the Toronto soccer team, join us at that luncheon as well. We went to the Mars Discovery Center, and our delegates learned a lot about how we can better create a vibrant innovation district for entrepreneurs in tech and creative industries. We had a reception at Casa Loma, which is a turn-of-the-century castle that was built in Toronto, hosted by the Consul General Juan Alsasi. And it was certainly one of the highlights of the trip. We had a great opportunity for interaction with some of the Canadian business folks up there, and from my standpoint, it was the greatest opportunity to really meet some of those folks and tell the story of Tampa Bay and why it's so important to talk about doing business together. The film and digital media section of the trip, as well as the travel and tourism section of the trip, gave us some real insight on what we can do here to make this community better and increase our tourism, increase our film and digital media industry to be a valuable and impactful part of our economy. Most importantly on this trip, it furthered our goal to strengthen exports and generate new relationships with businesses and folks from Toronto for our Tampa Bay companies. Matter of fact, we ended up getting, part of what we do on this trip is try to increase the exports, which is the Gold Key companies that we're going up there to sell their products and services. But we also are always on the lookout and always trying to create leads for expansion and relocation projects, specifically Toronto companies or Canadian companies that are looking to get a foothold in the United States, and we had several of those meetings. With that, I'd like to welcome Steve Morey, who's our Director of Recruitment at the Tampa-Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation, just to talk a couple of seconds about the types of leads that we had and what they mean to us.
Good morning. My name's Steve Morey. I'm Director of Business Recruitment at the Tampa-Hillsborough EDC. Thank you, JP. You know, in the world of business recruitment, especially international business recruitment, it is a long-term process. And that process really starts with increasing the trade between the two companies. If you increase the amount of business that's being done, which our business representatives did while we were up there, eventually, hopefully the goal is there's such a relationship that they need to have a location in the U.S. Certainly the other piece was to make those connections. Who is in the know as far as business relocations? Who are the people that we need to have relationships in Toronto, in Canada? The third is to be able to tell our story, to build awareness. They need to know who we are and what we have to offer, and I think we accomplished all those on this trip. I just wanted to thank Brent Barkway from Pinellas County Economic Development. As has been mentioned before, I mean, this really was a joint trip. Folks in Canada that are making these decisions, they see it as Tampa Bay. They don't make the distinction, so it's important that we were up there together. We had the opportunity to meet with several companies, and it was across the board. I mean, it was IT, it was manufacturing, it was decision makers in the site selection world, and they were all very bullish on Tampa and on Florida. Why? Because they see the skilled workforce growing. They see the business climate as excellent. It gives them an opportunity to access both the U.S. market and the South American and Central American market. So it certainly was a successful trip in that we had all our bases covered, from the Commerce Department, increasing the business recruitment, film and digital media, building relationships between both business and public sector leaders.
Thank you, Steve. You know, increasing the economic opportunities for our companies here locally is always the end game. While it's too early to report sales figures or actual hard results, after all, there are still a couple of companies that are still in Toronto because the interest was so great they had to extend their stay past our stated mission time. But we accomplished a lot in the short period of time that we were up there. As we said, the trip did generate a lot of leads, and we expect to have those sales figures from the export side available to everyone within the next couple of weeks. And now I'd like to invite Chris Minner from the Tampa International Airport and Dale Gordon, Executive Director of the Film Tampa Bay, to come up and talk about the value that they saw from this trip.
Thank you.
Oh, and I forgot Rob Price from Visit Tampa Bay. Sorry.
Great. Well, good morning. I'm Chris Minner, your Vice President of Marketing at Tampa International Airport, and we're really thrilled to have a growing list of international destinations. That includes 4 in Canada: Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Halifax. Toronto is actually our largest international destination. Right now, there are about 287 passengers per day traveling each way from Tampa International Airport to Toronto. Since 2011, the number of passengers traveling on nonstop flights between Tampa International Airport and Canada has grown by 34%, with a 13.2% increase just in this year alone. And as we're heading into winter, I think it's important to note that we've got, between Air Canada and WestJet, a combined total increase of another 11% for this winter. On Wednesday, when we met with the Vice President of Commercial at the Air Canada Leisure Group, we were really proud to share with him the support that our community puts into the nonstop flights at Tampa International Airport. And I can tell you honestly, he was really impressed by the fact that we had 70 CEOs, politicians, community leaders that were there to expand the business opportunities between our two communities. And what that means for them is more passengers that are willing and able to buy those last minute and first class tickets that drive the premiums and the profits for the carriers. Last year, Air Canada began converting their fleet for Tampa International Airport over to their new Rouge product. And what that means is that there are now more seats and more passengers on every single flight. This winter, for the first time ever, Air Canada will operate double daily 767 wide-body flights from Toronto to Tampa International Airport. And they're also going to experiment this spring with extending the normal season that they operate their Montreal flights. And I think that this significant increase in their capacity at Tampa International Airport and to our community is a clear and shining example of their belief in the strength and the vitality of our market. On behalf of Tampa International Airport, I want to thank all of the businesses, our community leaders, mayors, city council, and county representatives as well, for your support of this business mission to Toronto. I also want to thank the economic development teams and the Tampa Bay Export Alliance for all of your hard work in coordinating this trip. And I just want to share a closing thought. Our market is very different from other Florida gateways. Right now, about 42% of the passengers traveling at Tampa International Airport are beginning or ending their journey here in our region. That compares with 37% in Miami and 27% in Orlando. That, combined with the strong active engagement of our business community and our local leaders, are two things that really are key differentiating points for us. And they support the business cases as we go and we make proposals to other airlines all around the world that show the support that's here for our community. So again, I just really delighted to be able to participate in this trade mission. They really do make a difference, and we're glad to be your partners.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dale Gordon, the Executive Director for Tampa Hillsborough Film and Digital Media Commission, also known as Film Tampa Bay. So this was a really unique opportunity for us as a film commission and as a community. You know, right now I know that we've had a lot of media lately about the lack of state incentives that we have to lure high impact production to the state of Florida and the greater and Tampa Bay area. One of the reasonings that this has become so prevalent of a business model is because of the Canadian government. They were actually responsible for beginning an incentive program about 30 years ago now. And so the goal for us in showcasing their industry was to show the depth. This is what you get when you have 30 years of a successful, consistent, and funded incentive program, and how deep their film and digital media infrastructure is. And so we were able to work with and tour some of these amazing facilities that they have up there. The first being IMAX. IMAX is headquartered up in Toronto, Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. And they, not only are they, you know, we know IMAX by movie theater and what they do there, but they also develop their own technologies. They also do their own IP. They do their own distribution. So this was, again, amazing opportunity to learn more about all of, again, the technology that goes into what they do, their business model, how closely they work with the local educational institutions in developing their workforce so that they do have that high-tech workforce available for their use. We also got to hear that they are in negotiations or conversations with MOSI if there is to be the development of a new facility soon so that we can have some of that new laser technology that's going to be going into these theaters. So that was very exciting. And then we also wanted to look at some of the other aspects because this isn't all about just a big Hollywood film. We wanted to showcase digital media. In Toronto, they have a facility called Chorus Entertainment, and they're one of the largest media conglomerates in the country. Under their umbrella, they have everything from HBO Canada, Sundance Television, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. And so we were able to take a look at some of their computer animation technologies and see, again, how deep their workforce is as well. And then in the evening, we visited and had a reception at the Toronto International Film Festival. And this was really important to also showcase how important it is to have a strong film festival that really serves as an economic driver for your community. As you all know, we do have our very own Gasparilla International Film Festival that is going to be celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. And so it was great to hear from the leaders of their community. You know, Toronto International Film Festival is looked at as one of the top 3 film festivals in the world, along with Cannes and Sundance. And truthfully, in my opinion, and having attended a lot of these festivals throughout the world, the Toronto International Film Festival is the most effective film market and festival in the world. So it was a tremendous opportunity to showcase the, again, the depth of the infrastructure and learn more about that and also make business ties with their community.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Price. I'm with Visit Tampa Bay. And the tourism aspect of our trip, it's like going old home, going back to Toronto. We've been working this market for in excess of 30 years, whether Visit St. Pete Clearwater or Visit Tampa Bay. Typically, in our marketing and sales strategy, we go up there 2 or 3 times a year to meet with our top accounts. As part of this mission this week, what we did is we co-hosted with Visit Florida, our state's tourism board, a media reception in downtown Toronto. There we invited all the top bloggers and local media folks from Toronto area to come out with a theme of family, food, and more. We had over 120 folks join us. There's that much interest in Florida. In fact, most recent records show 4.2 million Canadian visitors come to our state last year. And of that, we get a significant part of that margin, which reflects the increase in air service. During that event, I met with the Air Canada Vacations folks myself, and to support the new lift, and we know the demand is there, we're going to look at doing more cooperative marketing campaign in the winter for the Visit Tampa Bay market. So that was a direct result of being up there this week, that the wheels are in motion to start this new marketing campaign to bring even more of our friends from the north down to our destination. Whether it is the tie-in with the sports, with the Dunedin Blue Jays spring training facility, of course our own Tampa Bay Lightning, we're actually looking to activate our winter sales and marketing campaign in Toronto this year, so stay tuned with the tie-in with the NHL fans. Overall, it was a great trip, and again, something that nobody's brought up yet this morning is the currency exchange. Well, I'm an optimistic person, and there's a flip side to that exchange rate. What that also makes is gas prices very inexpensive, and Canadians still drive down here. So from a tourism perspective, if you have a large family, they don't mind taking 2 or 3 days to drive down to Florida. So we're seeing that as well. The biggest thing that we need, and it's a good problem to have, is more inventory. Hotel room inventory is so tight in the whole Bay Area that similar like we've talked with our German friends with the new service on Lufthansa, again, with this increase in capacity, my biggest challenge is finding enough hotel rooms to put all these new visitors. So overall, it's an old market, I wouldn't say an old, but a seasoned market, but we're looking forward to attracting even more of those folks, and it was a great event overall. Thank you for the opportunity.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we actually come to the highlight of the conference, because the primary purpose of this trade mission was to put Tampa Bay area companies right in front of their Toronto counterparts, potential suppliers, customers, joint venture partners. And we had 9 companies that did that, and this is made possible through a grant with the Enterprise Florida organization, and Max Stewart is our local Enterprise Florida rep for the Tampa Bay area. He's based here and works with us day in and day out. So we're grateful for that relationship. And we had 2 of the companies with us today that had tremendous success during the course of this program. The Gold Key program, just to give you a quick introduction, it allows the AmCham and the U.S. Department of Commerce Commercial Service Group in the Toronto area to find out. We provide them with lists of companies that are interested in going to that market, and they vet it ahead of time to determine that there is a market for their products and services, so that it's a good match. And then if they do pass that vetting process, these organizations will set up appointments with our companies. So all they have to do is show up. They've got a driver. They're ready to go to visit these companies on their own turf, to get tours of the factory, to get to know them, and to allow those companies to get to know our capabilities. So with that, we have 2 companies here today. The Chuck Ottavio and Steve Morano are the representatives from Magic Ear, which is a company in Clearwater. And then Aero Supply, Robert Ramirez, is also joining us, the Clearwater company. And they'll tell you more about what they do and the success of the program.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Miranda. I represent Magic Gear. This is Chuck Ottavio.
With Magic Gear also.
Chuck's the president. I'm in vice president of sales. Just to give you a little brief how this even became an event for us is Chuck said, let's go over and see Tampa Bay Export Alliance. And we called up over there. We met Brent. And all we were doing is exploring to see what this availability would be to help us increase our business. And after talking for about 2 hours, he said, we're doing an event, this is only like 5 weeks ago, in Canada, would you be interested in going? And sure enough, we said yes, and we crammed all this stuff into 5 weeks. In between, we were 2 weeks in China. So last night was the first night I actually had a good night's sleep. But the thing that I want to say is simply this. The Tampa Bay Alliance, Brent, Lori, and Libby, our camera person, who's an absolute joy to be with. And the Canadian side with U.S. Commercial Services, Anya Lebonsky, she was absolutely incredible. She did a super job. The whole concept that we joined on this Gold Key match marking service allowed us to make a perfect match to our business opportunities in Canada and grow our business. We had a wonderful commercial service representative, a gentleman by the name of John Walker, who we worked with previous to going up there so we could sort of fine-tune the exact areas that we wanted to approach in Canada. He set 8 wonderful appointments for us, from individual independent companies to large corporations, including local distributors. And that's pretty much it. We just had an incredibly wonderful time. Didn't know what to expect, but we enjoyed the mayors, meeting the mayors, and everybody involved, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, hi, my name is Robert Ramirez. I'm the COO of Aero Supply USA, and I want to thank all the organizations that were responsible for putting this great trade mission show together. And just want to let all the small businesses around Tampa Bay and the whole state of Florida that my company is extremely encouraged for all the results and all the situations that happen and presented to us, the opportunities to take our business on a global scale and meet other corporations in other countries that would use our services, and likewise us use their services in the trade. I want to also point out that it was an extremely encouraging mission for us, as we've never presented ourselves on a global scale, and the results for us are extremely encouraging. We've met several companies. We went around Mississauga, all around Toronto. We had 5 different organizations that we met with, and we were very successful for them, to the point that today we're doing business with them a day later when we came. So I recommend this, and I want to thank everybody that was involved in putting this together. I want to thank the mayors and all the heads of these organizations that worked very hard to give and expose small businesses around the globe. And I just want to pass on the message that this is very encouraging, and it's great to expose your capabilities and your business relationships and actually take your company to the next level. So for us, we're very thankful.
One thing else I'd like to mention is the fact, since we have an opportunity here to plug our business, the reason why we're up in Canada is the FDA has recently changed some guidelines on the production of hearing aids. Hearing aids can be quite expensive. We don't know why the prices are such out of range, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 per hearing aid. Well, the new device that we went up there specifically to pitch in Canada is a new item called a PSAP, which is a personal sound amplifier. This product is the same thing. It looks like a hearing aid, it works like a hearing aid, but it's called a PSAP. The difference between a PSAP and a hearing aid is hearing aid, you go to the audiologist to have your hearing checked, and then they check your hearing, and then they take that losses that you have in your hearing and put it into the hearing aid. A PSAP is a set piece of a product where there's 4 separate settings, one for maybe like TV, one for if you go out to a restaurant in a noisy environment, another one might be being at a church event, and at a church event, like the speaker or the priest is up in front and you can't hear it well, you just push the button and it brings it to 3 for listening better. The restaurant one is a really unique one for people with bad hearing problems, and that is, if you went to, even us with good hearing, sometimes you go in a restaurant and the ceilings, because of the acoustics in there, it's so incredibly loud. Well, with this item, you can just hit number 2, it takes all the ambient sound all around and deletes it. And all it will do is keep that certain area around your table so you can listen. So it's very unique. For TV, there's the other thing sometimes, and I don't know if you've ever been involved with that, where you go into somebody's house and that TV's blasting away. Well, what they can do is keep that TV very low, and the wife, sometimes that happens too, and they're in bed together, and the wife says, "Can you turn it down so I can sleep?" And just put this on low and turn up the hearing aid, and everything will be fine. It's kind of unique about hearing loss. Men, when they reach 45 years old to 50, lose high frequency. And it just so happens that women speak in high frequency. So, the last thing I want to say about the PSAP is this. So we talked about hearing aids being $1,500 to $5,000 each. The PSAP will retail any place at $300. And it does the same thing, but we can't mention, when we go to sell it, according to the FDA, we can't mention anything to do with hearing when we talk about PSAPs. We have to talk listening. When you sell hearing aids, it's hearing. PSAPs is listening. Thank you. Questions? No.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry? Yes, we're an aerospace parts and electronic components distributor. We distribute on a global scale. We cater to MROs, maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities, whether they're military or commercial. We are also we're engaged with other Tampa-based small businesses where we bring them in so that we can add capabilities to our services to our clients. We basically attack the supply chain in the aerospace business, which seems to be a very lucrative and very expanding industry in today. 'Cause today's everything is aerospace, and people want to get from one place to the other as fast as possible. And the new technologies that are being created today, we keep up with, and we support our customers globally.
Good. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Well, thank you, everyone, for being here today. All of the speakers are still available if you have any further questions or follow-up, but thank you all for joining.